Welcome to Everything Medical. If you're coming across to this channel the first time, don't hesitate to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to get notification when we upload videos on the structures of the body. There's human anatomy. Today's video is all about the anatomy of the ulnar bone. As you can see what I'm holding in my hand, this is the ulnar bone. One thing you should understand about the bone is to check which type of bone it is. So this bone is a long bone, and the principal feature of a long bone is that it has a shaft. So this is the shaft of this bone. This is the shaft, and it has both ends, the proximal end or the upper end and the distal end or the lower end. So that is how it is being fashioned. Now, the ulnar bone is the first bone of the forearm. It is the longest bone of the forearm. It lies medially in the forearm. That was the reason behind the anatomical position of the man, because in anatomical position of the man, the ulnar bone lies medially in the forearm. It lies parallel along the second bone of the forearm, which is the radius bone. It acts as a stabilizing bone along with the radius bone in a pivoted position, helping in that movement. So the ulnar bone is a vital bone in the forearm because of its enormous work and numerous muscle attachments. So today we'll be discussing the muscular markings, the bony ridges and crest of this beautiful bone. So the first thing to talk about is the features on its proximal end. This is the proximal end of the ulna. Proximal end. Proximal end is just like the upper end of it, or the upper half of the ulna. What are those principal features on its proximal end? We have, number one is the trochlear notch. This is the trochlear notch. The trochlear notch. The second is the olecranon process. This is the olecranon process. The olecranon process. Here is the olecranon process. This is the trochlear notch. While here is the coronoid process. Here is the radial notch. This is the radial notch. This is the ulnar tuberosity. While here is the subcutaneous area and posterior proximal end of the ulna. Got it here? So, what is it all about the olecranon process? So, the olecranon process is the lateral or is the large proximal projected part of the ulnar bone. It is the large proximal projected part of the ulnar bone. It is projected proximally. That is why it's a large proximal projected part of the ulnar bone. It participates in forming the trochlear notch. Is the trochlear notch. It participates in forming the trochlear notch. And here, the superior surface gives site of attachment of the triceps brachii. The triceps brachii. Its anterior surface also gives site of attachment of the capsular ligament of the elbow joint. Between the triceps brachii and that site of capsular ligament of the elbow joint gives us our bursa, the subcutaneous bursa. So that is all about the olecranon process. Recall that when the elbow is extended, the olecranon process fits into the olecranon fossa that is located on the posterior distal end of the humerus, because this olecranon process fits into the olecranon fossa when the elbow is extended in order to make it to become stable. Okay, this region here, this region here is our trochlear notch. The trochlear notch is a retched bony surface that is formed by the olecranon process and the coronoid process. It accommodates the trochlear bone of the humerus when the elbow, either when the elbow is extended or flexed, because the bone is always situated on this region, which is the trochlear bone on the distal end of the radius, proximally the anterior surface of the distal end of the radius on its lower end. You get, so the trochlear notch accommodate the trochlea of the humerus. Here is the trochlear notch. So the next bony feature that we're discussing is the coronoid process. The coronoid process is a big-shaped bony projection that is located distal to the trochlear notch. This is the trochlear notch, as we have discussed. So the coronoid process is a big-shaped bony projection that is located distal or at the base of the trochlear notch. So that is all about the coronoid process. The next bony feature of discussing is the radial notch. Here is the radial notch. As you all know from the name, you should know what it means. The radial notch is a notch that is located at the lateral surface of the trochlear notch. It accommodates or receives the head of the radius. That is why it's called the radial notch. Here is the radial notch. Now, there is a tuberosity here called the ulnar tuberosity. Here is the ulnar tuberosity. The ulnar tuberosity is a roughened bony impression, you get, that provides sort of attachment of the brachialis muscle. Brachialis muscle. Here is a crest known as the spinator crest. It provides site of attachment of the spinator muscle. Along at the shaft is the nutrient foramen. There is a foramen at the upper half of the shaft, and there's a foramen here at the interosseous border. Get, so they transmit nutrient artery for the ulna. Now, we have discussed a whole lot on the proximal end of the ulna. Let's dive into the shaft. You call that the shaft of the ulna is the long portion of the ulna. It is the long portion of the ulna. It extends from the ulnar tuberosity proximally to the head of the ulna. Because here is the head of the ulna. It is the enlarged distal end of the bone. So it is the head of the ulna. Look at it. It is the end or the head of the ulna per se. It is the enlarged end of the distal end of the ulna. The enlarged head of the distal end of the ulna. Okay. Recall that the shaft of the ulna is bigger on its upper half while it decreases progressively on its lower half. So it decreases on its width on its lower half. As you can see on this structure, if you watch it, it is bigger on its upper half while it is decreasing as it's going downward on its lower half, which means it decreases on its width on its lower half. So the ulna has, the shaft of the ulna has the following features. It has three borders and three surfaces. Three borders and three surfaces. Look at how the ulna is placed. Look how the ulna is placed. So here is the anterior border of the ulna. This is the anterior border. The anterior border, the interosseous border or the lateral border, and the posterior border. Because if you watch, the posterior border extends from the subcutaneous aspects of the proximal end of the ulna downward to the styloid process. This is the posterior border. The posterior border. Get. Now, the anterior border extends medially upward from the ulnar tuberosity downward to the medial aspect of the styloid process. That is all about it. Why the interosseous border extends from the spinator crest upward, downward to the styloid process of the ulna, though it becomes indefinite as it goes downward. As you can see, once it extends from this spinator crest, goes downward, it becomes not clear anymore. Get? So it becomes not clear anymore. This and this interosseous border or the lateral border provide site of attachment of the interosseous membrane of the forearm. Interosseous membrane of the forearm, though it is not attached clearly on its upper half. It is mostly on its lower half, that is the distal end. So that is all about the borders. Now let's dive into the three surfaces. Okay, this is the anterior surface. The anterior surface of the ulnar bone. Anterior surface of the ulnar bone is formed between the anterior border and the interosseous border. That is all about the anterior surface. Now, the posterior, here is the posterior surface. The posterior surface. The posterior surface is formed between the posterior border and the interosseous border. That is all about the posterior surface. Now, here is the medial border. This is the medial border. The medial border. The medial border is formed between the anterior, here is the medial surface, I mean to say, the medial surface. The medial surface. The medial surface is formed between the anterior border and the posterior border. These borders provides numerous sites of muscle attachment. Get. As you can see on this interosseous border or the lateral border, it mostly provides site of attachment of flexor digitorum profundus muscle. That is one of those muscles that forms the deep flexors of the forearm. Get. Now here on this region, at the lateral side of the coronoid process, provides site of attachment of the muscle of the superficial flexors of the forearm, which is the flexor digitorum superficialis on this region, the pronator teres muscle, and the flexor digitorum profundus at this region. Recall that here is the spinator crest, provides of attachment of the spinator muscle. Now, the pronator quadratus runs obliquely on this region along the lower distal end. These are the muscles that attaches on its anterior surface. We have muscles on the posterior surface as well. There are numerous muscles on that region. Now, on the distal end of this bone, here is the distal end. The distal end, we have the head of the ulna. The head of the ulna is the enlarged portion of the ulna. It is the enlarged portion on the distal end of the ulna. That is the head. Here is the head of the ulna. The first feature it has is the styloid process. The styloid process is the sharpest and distal medial bony projection. It is a sharp and distal medial bony projection. You get. Now, the tip of the styloid process provides site of attachment of the medial ulnar collateral ligament. That is what attaches on that region. You get. So as you can see, it is directed posterior medially. It is directed posterior medially. This is how it is being placed. So it is directed posterior medially. Posterior medially. You get. Now, another feature that is seen here is the groove of the extensor carpi ulnaris. The groove of the extensor carpi ulnaris muscle. You get. Now, here is the groove. This is the groove. It is located on it is located adjacent to the styloid process of the ulna, and it is directed proximolaterally. You get, it's directed proximolaterally. As you can see, it is directed proximolaterally. Here is it. Directed proximolaterally. Here is the groove. The groove lodges the tendon of the extensor carpi ulnaris muscle. Because that the extensor carpi ulnaris muscle is a dorsiflexor and abductor of the hand in a wrist. You get, that is the action of that muscle. So as you can see, this region, it is a vital aspect. Now, what is the articulation of the distal end of the ulna? It articulates with the ulnar. It articulates with the ulnar ridge or the ulnar notch at the radius to form the inferior radioulnar joint. It also forms or participates in formation of the radiocarpal joint, although it mostly articulates with the articular disc of the inferior radioulnar joint. It articular disc only because the ulnar bone does not participate truly in forming the wrist joint, which is the radiocarpal joint, because it is being separated from it by the articular disc of the inferior radioulnar joint. So that is all about the feature of this bone. Now, but most importantly, recall that the proximal end forms an articulation, which is the notch of, the trochlea of the humerus, forming the humeroulnar joint. And here at the head, it forms what we call the superior radioulnar joint. That is two articulation. Now, this bone is prone to fracture. It can be fractured either by a traumatic injury. Now, the fracture of the shaft of the ulna could lead to what we call Motengia fracture. It can be called Motengia fracture. That is the fracture of the upper two-thirds of the shaft of the ulna, which will cause the head of the radius to dislodge or dislocate from the radial notch. Is found on the lateral surface of the trochlea or trochlear notch of the ulna. So that is all about this beautiful bone. I want to thank you so much for staying to the end of this class. Endeavor to subscribe and anticipate more videos on the bony structures. Thank you so much for watching.